Alex, you are continuing the chase of a murder that happened back in the 70s of a wealthy socialite, one of the most notorious murders to take place in Trenton. You caught up with the convicted killer in Trenton State Prison, but you've got another angle on this story.
Yesterday we explained to you how myself and Detective Gary Britton, former Trenton homicide cop, were able to go to New Jersey State Prison to interview Keith Alford, who's been serving a life sentence for more than 30 years after being convicted of murdering Emma Jane Stockton, a wealthy socialite who went to Trenton to try and make it better and wound up brutally tortured and murdered in 1979. At the end of yesterday's segment, we had told you that I had asked him point blank, did he kill Emma Jane Stockton?
Did you torture, rape, and murder Emma Jane Stockton?
No, sir.
During Alford's trial, it had been mentioned that Emma Jane had a drawing of herself or someone in a tied-up position on a desk at where she worked at the Greater Trenton Symphony Orchestra. Now, we had talked to Keith Alford about how he said he had a casual sexual relationship with Emma and they had been doing drugs together. So we wondered, could this have been a way for Emma Jane to indulge her fantasies with someone that she wasn't able to contact normally? Could this have been an encounter gone horribly wrong?
Do you remember where you were when you found out that Emma Jane had been murdered?
We read about it in the newspaper.
What did you think?
So, and just kept right on going.
It wasn't a big deal?
It wasn't a big deal.
Now, we also asked him about Anna Mae Chicaleski. That's the second murder that Alford's also serving a life sentence for. He says he knew the 67-year-old Hamilton resident and was servicing her sexually as well.
Well, Anna Mae was 64.
Yeah, it's 67, so I think. So, and, you know what I'm saying? So, and, it was another lady up the street that was older, was old as her or older, was actually married. She would come by and just pick me up. So I was servicing a few.
So let me get this straight. Keith Alford had admitted to us that he knew two women who were both horribly murdered within days of one another, yet had no feelings whatsoever about their deaths, either feeling of fear that he'd be caught or any sort of remorse. And
did you feel sorry for Chicaleski when you heard about what had happened to him?
Indifferent. It happens. It happens.
Is there anything you do care about?
Not really.
Have you always been like that?
Always.
Okay, well, Gary decided to try a different approach. Gary's been trained in this. He was a homicide detective for 10 years. He brought himself into the equation.
I met you. I worked here. And I was delivering mail. You were living on 2 Wing.
Okay.
And every day you never get mail. And I said to you, I says, hey dude, how come you never get any mail? And you said real clearly, ain't nobody I want to talk to out there.
There you go.
We tried to really plumb his psychology. He talked a lot about foster homes.
I was always in foster homes. So you never, you know what I'm saying, you'd never grow an attachment to anything or anyone.
Then there was one point where he sort of slipped up, and it's hard to tell. You got to watch this carefully. But we were talking about how Emma Jane Stockton in the Trenton homicide had been tied to a bed. And we asked him repeatedly about that.
Yeah, I know. I had the file in front of me.
Watch this carefully.
Yeah, I know. I had the file in front of me.
Did you hear that? Was he just about to say, I was there when Emma Jane Stockton was murdered? And then the only other time that I got him to show any sort of emotion whatsoever is when I pushed a picture of Emma Jane Stockton across the table at him.
Who's this picture? You recognize this face?
Yeah. That's OJ's wife. So, yeah.
Do you think that's Nicole Brown?
Looks like it.
That's Emma Jane.
Is it really? Okay, 30 years.
What do you think looking at it? Look at that picture. Look at that. And she is frozen there forever.
Yeah.
At that age, in that form, because someone took her life. What do you think about that?
It's a picture.
We left shocked with my eyes opened. This was a really revealing interview, and it's, to me, something that, it's about truth, you know? Truth is more complex and more scary and more terrifying than any fairy tale bedtime story that anyone can tell you. This isn't a Red Riding Hood tale. Emma Jane Stockton is not to blame for her death, but she may have made decisions that brought someone like Keith Alford into her life. It's not as simple as a fairy tale, but it's even more terrifying.
So, Gary, let me ask you. I mean, you're a former homicide detective in Trenton. You've probably seen the worst of the worst. Is this typical of somebody that gets convicted of murder? Are we looking at somebody who has exercised great evil, or is this someone with a complete mental disconnect and an imbalance?
Well, I find Keith Alford to be a special circumstance. He had a disconnect. a complete disconnect from this crime. I'm a firm believer that the best lie is partly the truth. You know, the most truth you can get into your lie, the better lie you're going to have. And he started off, I was painting my friend's house at 18 Pennington Avenue, gives us the name, and he's very, very detailed, and she drove by in a white car. And then I went to jail for this Hamilton thing, and then the next thing you know, they're giving me some truth serum, and I don't know nothing else would happen. He skipped 2 months of his life to tell me, you know, I didn't do it. And I'm thinking, Alex, I'm thinking, well, surely he must have had a better excuse than that I don't remember.
It's just, you know, it's fascinating. I mean, I think there's so many times when situations happen like this, and it's easy for people to make excuses, whether it's background or whether it's mental illness. This sounds like you looked into the face of evil.